So good evening, everyone. Good morning. Good day in total. Nice that we are meeting. Though after a fortnight, a lot of things have happened. During the things, a lot of match going on. And today we have very good two topics. One is teamwork. In other words, as has been put by Marcus, if there is a difference of opinion among umpires who are on the field or part of PCT, how to go ahead, which are the areas where these things may crop up, how to deal with that. And second was, which recently happened in our World Cup, if a fielder is positioned directly in line of the vision of the striker, maybe within the width of the side screen, how to deal with the situation. Whether we take proactive action and prevent him from standing there, or what are the other remedial measures for us as umpires and its repercussions. If that fielder makes a movement or the striker is distracted by anything, how do we go about and things. And there was also a third interesting situation aired by one of our colleagues, Swapnil. He said if the strikers take stand too close to the protected area, whereby in his routine playing at the ball, he encroaches the protected area. And one of the umpire wants to stop it, but the other umpire is allowing it because striker will be at both the ends. How to deal with this situation? Again, this comes under the point number one, teamwork. Who has to take what action? As far as we umpires are concerned, where PCT is there, in our local matches, only two of us will be there. In little higher matches where third umpire is there, three of us will be there. At a more higher level, will be five of us, the fourth umpire and the match referee if available. The teamwork has to be within all these four umpires. Of course, match referee is there as a guide. He will not interfere with the decisions or the actions of the umpire, except one where the match has to be abandoned. He is the one who takes a decision. It is not in the jurisdiction of the umpires present. They can only feed the information to him. But now many of us umpire at lower level where only two of us will be on the ground. So what are the occasions when we have to show greater teamwork? Yes, we are different. We have our own opinions and interpretations. And these are the forums which help us to iron out those things and how to work as a team. Because on the field, if we show it to the world that we are not on the same page, then it's very, very difficult to manage the match. The match management will be very difficult. It's like in olden days, a bullock cart had two bullocks. One bullock goes to the left and the other goes to the right. How the vehicle will go forward? We are the facilitators. So what are the areas? First is, what are the occasions when we are supposed to take joint decisions? One is bad light. Other is changing the ball. Third is allowing a substitute. I'm only naming these three because these three often crop up in any match. As far as bad light is concerned, it's fairly simple. There's a set process. As far as changing the ball, we also follow set process. Allowing a substitute also, we follow a set process, and we have not seen any discontent or difference of opinion in the two. Yes, in bad light, there could be one or two, but ultimately it has not been exposed to the general public, because in cases of bad light, what process we follow is we will be looking at the sky a couple of deliveries or a few minutes earlier than when actually light is bad for game to continue. That gives an indication to the bowling side that we are considering the light. And depending on the type of bowler that is, if fast bowler is operating, that particular light could be not good for that type of bowling. The captain may bring in the spinners or the slow bowlers. There are a few occasions. Now what happens if a spinner bowls a faster one? We will go into detail later. But then when light is really bad, we go and consult each other. And then we come at one decision. We all know that if there is a difference of opinion between the umpires, the status quo shall continue. And when we consult each other, we would have called dead ball, taken the custody of the ball, and will be talking not within the hearsay of others, but away from others. So what transpires between us is not heard by anyone. And one decision we take, if we disagree, status quo, we continue with the match. If we agree, we stop the match. So the others will not know what decision we have arrived or what individual decisions we had. But coming to substitute and ball change, what practically happens is little change. Usually it is the one umpire who takes a decision and the other agrees to it. For example, if there is a change of ball and the fielding side brings the ball to, generally they bring it to the bowler's end umpire. He has a hard look at the ball, and if he feels that it's still playable, he just pass it up back and say, continue with the game. But strictly going by the law, it's a joint decision. But we take shelter under, if we have difference of opinion, the status quo will continue. So the same ball has to be continued, and we do. But there's a tricky situation here. Now the ball comes to me as a bowler's and umpire. I have a look at the ball and then walk to you. So what am I telling the general public or the person who are watching the match, including the players who are on the ground? That in my opinion, the ball may not be playable. So when I come to you and if you have a difference of opinion and tell me that we can continue with the same ball for some more time, I have no choice but to come back and give the ball back into the play. So everybody knows that I am of a different opinion and my partner is of a different opinion. And the other case is, after the fifth ball of the over, the bowler comes with the ball to you. You say it is playable and give it back. The sixth ball of the over is played dead defense. It's neither hit hard, nor it goes into the pavilion, or it comes contact with any edges. You call over, your partner comes onto the other side. Promptly the ball is taken to him and he walks to you. Here also, as a team, we are ending with the same situation as the earlier situation. What we have to follow as a general consensus is, Once the partner walks with the ball to you, just have a cursory look at it and say, go ahead with your decision of changing the ball. Even if, in my opinion, the ball was playable for some more time, I should express that in the pavilion, in the dressing room, at a later stage when we have the occasion, so that this sort of things doesn't trigger further. But at present, for the present, I should sail or sink with my partner. But there are certain issues, for argument's sake. When my partner errs blatantly, should I be with him? That is a totally different case. Just for those which never happen or which happen 1 in 1,000, we should not generalize the thing and drag it to other things. Even the sixth ball over and the ball is taken to my partner, just have a cursory look, hand it over back and wait for an opportunity. If you feel that ball was unplayable, let the ball be hit or let it go outside the boundary, come in contact with any edges, sharp edges, then you walk with the ball to your partner who will agree to you. But all these things on the field, we should note down and thrash our things in the pavilion. I must say, partner, if such and such a ball is there, please do not come with next time, because we can prolong it for some more time. We also have, in our experience, we have seen that ball comes back into shape after a couple of overs or so. And one more thing, what as an umpire we should keep it in mind is, we should not search for the dents. One look at the ball, it should be visibly and clear that it's out of shape. Certain times we have seen the players telling, sir, see this, here, pointing to one micro space on the ball. We should not search for the dents. This is too good teamwork. Second is, what I mentioned is allowing a substitute. What happens generally? The captain or the fielder concerned comes to one of the umpires, give reason, and he allows him to go out and he conveys it to his partner. I have not seen, or I have not come across any difference of opinion as far as allowing a substitute is concerned, because we all are very clear about when it happens and see. But there are occasional difference of opinions for bad light and the condition of the ball. And we are glad that those also are getting very minimized.
1 minute, Viren.
Yeah.
Sunil, can you please mute your mic? Sunil?
Yes.
Can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Okay. And then the other teamwork is judging the short pitch deliveries or high full pitch deliveries. Though the law says it is the umpire, means the bowlers and umpire, who has to take a call on either to call no ball or wide ball up to the permissible limits, where the playing conditions override the laws. As per law, anything which goes above is a no ball. But in our playing conditions, in the longer version of the game, we allow 2 short pitch deliveries, and in shorter duration, we allow 1 short pitch deliveries. So the law is slightly different to the extent of permissible limits. Now what happens? The ICC has set a protocol. Though the law says that it is the umpire who has to call no ball or wide ball, as the case may be, the bowlers and umpire is to be guided by the strikers and umpire, who is his partner. because he is in a better position to judge the height of the delivery than the bowlers and umpire. So what we generally follow is we go by the signal passed on to us by the strikers and umpire. And we all might have seen in international matches, as soon as a ball is short pitch delivery is bowled, which is going above the shoulder high, head high, or a high full pitched ball is there, the camera and all the players look at the strikers and umpire. And nowadays are no days of having any discrete signal. He openly signals you what his opinion is. And as a bowlers and umpire, it is my bounden duty to follow that. I may have any opinion I have, but I am not going to show it to the whole world that I differ from him. Recently, there are a couple of occasions. One was in an IPL match where the bowlers and umpire call no ball, but the strikers umpire said it is not above head height. That should never happen, and especially at the highest level. And second was recently in a World Cup match where a high full pitch delivery was bowled. The ball was hit to the fine leg boundary. The ball was caught near the boundary line. The batsman crossed for the second run before the ball was caught. And before the ball was caught, the strikers and umpire had raised his hand to indicate that it's a no ball, means above the waist high. But for whatever reasons, the bowlers and umpire did not declare it a wide. Since everybody knew that it is above waist height and it would be called no ball, that I infer because if you see the clippings there, the score at that time was 97 and the score increased by 3 runs, first to 98 and then to 100, because 1 run for no ball and 2 runs for the batsman had taken. But since the batsman was out there, without calling no ball, the matter was referred to the third umpire, who duly said that it's a no ball. As a result, what happened? All those of us who are knowledgeable knew that there was a lapse in teamwork, but the more resultant thing was 2 runs were reduced for the batting side. The score was brought down to 98 because the penalty for 1 run for no ball was permitted, but those 2 runs which the batsman had taken were not allowed or not counted because the laws say so. When a batsman is out and if it is referred to the third umpire and thereby the batsman is declared not out, whatever runs scored except penalty runs are not scored. Now the questions arises, what happens to the teamwork? More so, if the match is decided because of those 2 runs, what will be the repercussions? This is one aspect which we will be discussing. And second was, which I said, protected area thing. As far as protected area is concerned, law 41.15 takes care of it. And it's very clear that the umpire at the bowler's end also can take a decision, and the umpires at the strikers end also can take a decision. The wordings is either umpire who notices it. So it's not that one of the umpire has to take, or you have to consult between yourself and come to a conclusion. Whether I am at bowlers and umpire or the strikers and umpire, in fact, the strikers and umpire will be in a better position to see where the striker has taken a stand. And we do follow a protocol where I do signal to my partner where the striker has taken the stance. Not because he can come onto the protocol, but to help him judge LBW decisions, because in case he plays forward, how forward he is from the wicket. So how do you signal that? I keep my hand, one hand, that is the right hand if I am standing at the square leg, in line with the popping crease, and then with my left hand, show how far he is. Basically, it is for aiding LBW decision, but also that can help this. And as an umpire, standing at striker's end, I still can caution the batsman that he should not take stand there. Even as a bowler's end umpire, if you feel that he is standing sufficiently forward, you can take action. But the thing is here, what process do we follow? If the bowler has entered his delivery stride, means he is about to bowl, we do not stop the bowler. We allow the ball to be bowled, it to be dead, and then tell the striker not to do that. Because we don't want to inconvenience the non-offending team. But if the bowler has not entered his delivery stride, we stop him from bowling and tell the batsman to go back. But one thing as an umpire, we have to keep it in mind that if the umpire is if the striker is taking strike in his normal stance position, that is on the popping crease, but comes out 2-3 steps to play at the ball and thus comes on to the protected area, we cannot take any action. And this is not regularly happening because the wordings is avoidable damage. This is not avoidable because he has a right to play at the ball. He is at liberty to come 2-3 steps forward and play. With these opening remarks, I now ask Sarika to put in, and then MR can sum up, and then we will throw open the forum for everybody to come out their instances, how they have handled those instances, or if they still have any doubt or questions, they can ask the panel. Thank you. Sarika.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I think very, very nicely put in by VMG. I mean, coming to the striker in the affected area, I think we all are aware that he is not permitted to take a guard or adapt a stance inside the protected area. So what is the restrictions that the playing conditions place on him are, is that bowler is not allowed to go into the protected area and neither is the batsman should be permitted. Okay. Anyway, the striker is not allowed to stand and take guard in the protected area. Okay. The idea is we have to see the intent of the batsman. So by the way of him taking the stance, it is inevitable that he is going to encroach into the protected area. We got to tell him and tell him that action could be taken against them under 41.15. All right, because as a player, if you're taking maybe stance just a few inches out of the batting crease, you're taking a step out for the spinner, which after playing the shot, it's inevitable that you come into the protected area. That is okay, that is permitted. But by taking a stance, your first ride or movement is going to come into the protected area, or even by that moment, you're moving it. Then we can see that there is an intent on the batsman to enter into the protected area to gain some unfair advantage, like he wants to scuff up the wicket or something. So we can step in and let him know that action could be taken against him under 41.15, because basically how we work together is also is we got to let him know that what are the consequences. So if he continues, then we will take action against what is stated in 41.15. The main thing here is what we should understand is where is he taking the strike. All right. If he's taking 2 feet outside, and the moment that he's taking his front foot is he may not be entering into the protected area, but he's getting very close to the protected area. So what that does is the moment he's taking off, start for a run, his next 2-3 steps are basically going to be in the protected area. All right. So this should be prevented. Right. This is what my action would be in these situations. All right. Then coming to the ground weather and light conditions, like VNG has clearly mentioned that there are varying opinions from various umpires. We are all not the same. Fortunately, I mean, international cricket, they have the light meters. But even before you go into the light meter, you have to judge the light with your naked eyes. Whether it's an ODI or a test match, if it's in any game, once you think that the light is not good, you and your partner agree on it with the naked eye that the light is not good, what they do is they take a reading. So suppose the reading says 4.2. So that 4.2 becomes the benchmark for the remainder of the game. So any time the light meter shows 4.2, they take the players off the field, irrespective whether it's a fast bowler or a spinner. All right. Pace or spin, where does that come in is where the umpires still feel that the light is not, I mean, there is no considerable risk or danger to the batsman, any physical risk to the batsman. So in that case, what they do, the game can still continue. What they do is they can go to the fielding captain and say, guys, see, the light is bad, but it's not dangerous. But if you continue with the fast bowlers, we may have to take it off. But if it is spinners bowling, it is fine. So it's up to the fielding team captain. Okay, thank you. I'm going to use my spinners. Play will continue. No, sorry, I have to use my fast bowlers. Okay, in that case, we are going to go away. And again, they take that reading and that benchmark will be followed throughout the game. So whenever it reaches that 4.2, the umpires will take the fielders off, and only when it gets low, the reading gets better than that, then only they will restart the game or they will continue the game. So this is what happens. But at a lower level, we do not have that light meter available. So what we generally do is we have to go it with the naked eye. And like Mr. Vian has clearly said, that it's a matter of the umpires working together as a team. Agree or disagree amongst yourselves, but go to the team as one decision. I would just give an example here. In one of my league games, I was doing one game. 2 other senior umpires were doing a game on the next ground. There was a heavy rain. Our ground was in a bad condition. Our inspection was later, but at the next side ground, these 2 guys were inspecting the ground. So I was just watching. So while they were inspecting the ground, it was very, very evident that one, the way their body language is from outside, what I could see is one is clearly showing, see this patch is quite bad. I think somebody needs to move themselves.
Balaji, can you please?
Thank you, he's done. So it's very clear that he's saying that it's quite bad. And the other guy, the way his body language is, oh, this is okay, it's not so bad thing and all that. So it's very, very clear and evident. So finally, they went to the captain, said, okay, not now, we're going to have another inspection. So meanwhile, we had an opportunity to meet up, because the first time our ground also we could not start. The grounds were next to each other. So they were just talking to me. See, we felt like this, he felt like this, and all that. I said, but what does your body language show there? It's very clear to the players that you're not agreeing amongst yourselves. You agree or disagree, you go to a corner or you go to your umpire's room, you agree or disagree, you go to the captains with one this thing. That one, both of you go with one decision. All right. And on the field, don't show any type of body language that one is inclined to play and one is not inclined to play. All right. Players are smart nowadays. They watch for all these mannerisms. They watch for all these any indications. Then they will try to jump on the umpires. Right. They're very smart. They'll just go and tell if I'm doing a game with MRG and I'm not this thing, they tell MRG, sir, I think you're right. You wanted to play, but looks like your partner was not keen to play and all. They will try to get this thing from him. Of course, if that comes with MR, sir will clearly tell them, see guys, no, nothing like that. We were both same this thing. But it's not the case that happens everywhere. At some time, an umpire suddenly say, yeah, correct. I was not, I was happy to start the game. He was not playing. So immediately what happens, that same player will come and tell us, see sir, your partner is told us that he wanted play to continue, but you said no. There creates a rift and a conflict, this thing between the umpires. So we should, whatever it is, we should thrash out between us any agreement or disagreement, come to a conclusion, all right, come to a decision and go as one unified team to the captains, all right, say yes, it's not unfit for, it's not fit for play, they're not going to start now, we're going to have another inspection. No, we have expected a thing, we feel it is good, it's all talk about the positiveness. Yes, it's good. I think there is no risk or say for safety of the players. There are some small wet patches where they're a little bit quite away. There's no this thing to stop the game just because of this we can play. All right. If you're going to start, these are the positive things. If you don't want play to start, the ideal things to stay is talk about the safety of the players, the injury that can occur to the players and all that. All right. So these are things which you could indicate to the captains, and always as a team, you should make yourself visible. You just don't tell the teams, okay, there is an inspection time. You go and sit down somewhere there. You must always be there. Be ready at all times, approachable for any captains, for anything clarification that they would need. Or you must be seen discussing with the groundsman, checking whether he's got any other means or anything to dry up the ground faster. So these are things part of your teamwork. But as far as teamwork is concerned, this is very, very essential. What is the other thing, sir? Vian, sir, the third point. It's about the fielder stationed fielding positions, right? The third one. It's about the fielding positions. What happened recently in the World Cup? See, like I think, as far as I am concerned, there is no restrictions on us on where the fielder can stand. If he can stand right next to the non-striker in front of the batsman in a stationary position, and it is allowed, the same thing can be allowed where he's standing behind the bowler's arm. Whatever conditions that are placed on the close-in fielder will be placed on the same player. All right. And as far as batsman saying, I'm not ready, bowler, I'm distracted continuously and all, this is more of like a hearsay rather than it is generally happening. I've seen in matches, if a batsman says is distracted by that, we go to the fielding captain and say, look, he's got to be stationary. If not, they have to invoke this thing under time wasting. If repeatedly, if he's going to distract the batsman and all, and there ends the matter. And also we can talk to the captains in such a way with the responsibility that the captains of the responsibility that this has placed on the captains, the preamble has placed on the captains. They are also responsible for the what do you call it, the proper conduct of the game within the rules and all. So they also take responsibilities. We push the onus to the captains, and immediately they will take action. Believe me, when you tell the captain that it's your responsibility to conduct, you have your team under control, they will do it for you. rather than you approaching a fielder separately is always good as a team to get the captain involved and sort it out.
Right. Thank you, Sarika.
These
So,
are my opinions. I have a couple of examples on the teamwork. Sir. Can I quickly share them with you?
yeah.
Okay, just very quick ones. One, I was umpiring a game at T20 qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers with Simon Toffel. So he was our mentor umpire. I was doing a game with him in Dubai. So this was Oman and I think Ireland game. So Oman batsman was batting. I was at the striker's end. So there was a spinner ball. The batsman played the ball. For me, it appeared that it hit the boot, when hit the edge, hit the boot, went off, and it was caught at a short point because it went quite high in the air. So Simon was there. As soon as the appeal went up, he said, "Okay, that ball, hold on." He came to me. He said, "Sarika, I think the ball hit the bat, hit the ground, then went up." That was my this thing. What do you think? So I said, Simon, from my position, Simon, it did not appear as it hit the ground. It hit the edge, hit the shoe. So what? Why do you think like that? I said, I mean, one of the things I could say is, if it hit the pitch and goes up, it would have gone much faster. But it just went a little bit slow, and I think it clearly hit the boot. That was my opinion. But as a bowler and umpire, I was not very sure. He could have made that decision. But he had trust in me. He had trust in what I said. He went there and gave the batsman out. And the batsman, without looking at anything, without any displeasure, he walked off the field. So Simon, just after a couple of balls, he just gave me a thumbs up from the side. So, but that's a trust. It could so easily have been a wrong this thing from my side. All right. But he accepted that. All right. I think that is one example that I wanted to share. Over to you, Ian, sir.
Yeah, thank you. See, that is the teamwork. Once I walk to my partner, I should sink or sail with him. Why do I walk to my partner? Because I have a doubt or I want to reinforce my thinking. And when my partner gives me additional points, I must go with him. I should not go against his indications. Yeah, Ajit, you are. Can you mute yourself? Some disturbance is there. Yeah, MR.
I want that papad.
Ajit, your mic is not muted. We can hear. Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
Again,
sir.
it is unmuted.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
Yeah, MR.
Yeah, we were talking about teamwork between umpires. Teamwork works in various ways, from the smallest to the biggest things. One of the things that I would want every umpire, budding umpire, or anybody to always be ready to help your colleague. In my growing up years, one of the best things of teamwork I saw was on Channel 9 TV वगैरह was also at that time fledgling, and nothing was available. I remember one TV network 1909 का एक ऑस्ट्रेलिया वाली मैच थी. I happened to see it. The striker hit the ball towards the square leg umpire, and the square leg fielder was there right in front of the umpire, and he took it. He took the catch, and it was a low catch, and the bowler and umpire looked at his colleague, though he was actually looking in the dirt, looked at his colleague, and he immediately said, yes, he's got it. That was the level of readiness of that particular umpire there in order to assist. He knew he's asking for help. And he immediately, once he asked, he immediately did that. I had an experience personally, one with Mr. Punjabi, former test umpire. It was a Kaga League match we were playing. I think it was Hindu Gymkhana. I remember it so, or maybe Timesheet. I thought it looked to me a clear catch at short leg, though it was low. But I just looked at my colleague, ek nazar dala. Immediately he did this. So that is the kind of teamwork that we want there on the field of play. Is expected of us, and this is how things we help each other in coming to the right decision or avoiding a wrong decision. So to sometimes. about this, the laws, if you look at the laws of cricket, they accept the fact that these two persons are two different individuals and they will differ from time to time in their opinion about certain things. Be it be change of the ball, be it be the starting or closing of play, or anything really. That is why the law says that if the two captains, the two umpires disagree, the present state of play will continue. If you're playing, I'm not talking about playing, if about any other decision. And also, as regards light or fitness of the ground, the laws accept that and are quite ready to deal with the situation where they in fact are ready to deal with the situation where there is a difference of opinion. We have had difference of opinions, and without making it a prestige issue at any time, we should accept the position of your colleague and carry on with the game and use that tiebreaker. The law has a tiebreaker also, that I think that the pitch is not good for play, and my colleague says that it is good for play. The law provides a tiebreaker now. It has changed slightly. Earlier we had to both go off only if we both now one of us says that it is no good, we have to go off. The same applies to the tiebreaker is there. Now there are some problems created by certain rules that are made, and some people who make the rules perhaps don't think what happens. The rule should always prevail, which is in the laws of cricket, that if there is a difference of opinion, the state of affairs continues, or if it applies to light, etc. It can never, if there is a match referee, it can never be a best of three. It should never be allowed to become a best of three. That दो बोलेगा match referee और एक umpire बोलेगा खेलने का है, तो खेलना वगैरह, it should always be between the two umpires on the field of play. Even if we have a full match controlling team, PCT, even then it should be between the two umpires. The tiebreaker works between the two umpires. They may be consulted, they may be spoken to or whatever, but this is how I think it should be. And it shouldn't change. The framework of the law shouldn't be allowed to change. The match referee is there to oversee the match and make his reports and all that. He doesn't come in this decision-making process. And like I think Vian pointed out, when we ultimately decide to abandon the match, he comes in the picture, right, Vian?
Yeah.
He comes in the picture then when we decide to abandon. But otherwise, all game situations should be between the two of us. And we as umpires shouldn't make it to a prestige issue, because you should also recognize the fact that if you have an opinion on something, somebody else is use the tiebreaker and carry on with the game, which is what I suggest. Yes, Sarika made the point that never let your difference of opinion be known publicly to the players, because if that thing is there, they will work on you, both of you separately, and try to gain whatever advantage they can from either of you. That advantage is something, they play on your minds. And let me tell you, players at international levels are masters at intimidation and playing on the minds of umpires. They are masters at doing that. They do it. All they want is maybe one or two decisions here or there, and that is the advantage they seek. बुरे लोग नहीं हैं, लेकिन वो advantage वो लेना चाहते हैं आपसे भी, तो उनको ये मौका मत दीजिए. Don't give them this chance by showing publicly your disagreement. Sarika made that point. I endorse it entirely. That you have an opinion, yes, express it. Keep your actions neutral, even while discussing in any, because when you two go in to inspect the pitch and all that, you will see that the cameras are on you, everybody is watching you, both the teams are there, they are watching you, and to make apparent your disagreement would be very wrong to do. Keep your, just like we have instructions that never talk to a player like this or be aggressive. Keep your, be conscious of the fact that you're being watched, and keep your discussion neutral, that look, this is how I think it should be, and what do you suggest? And then the tiebreaker will apply, and that is the application of the law. Accept it. That is accept the contrary opinion, accept the application of the law, and carry on with the game. There is no other option. If you make it a prestige issue, कि ये होना चाहिए था यार उसने नहीं किया, if you ever tell the player that I wanted, there are people who do that. अरे यार आई वांटेड टू प्ले, वो साला गधा है, उसको कुछ आता नहीं है, कभी खेला नहीं है. They'll even say that. And try and avoid all those kinds of things. Coming to again teamwork, about the whole business of consultation with the square leg umpire by the bowlers and umpire for various issues. I have always felt that what we used to practice earlier, I need consultation, I need help. Give me the help when I look at you. I gave you those two examples. Give me that help when I look at you. Not that he should be raising his arm all the time and all that. I see it doing that. All right, the ICC has provided that the opinion in this particular matter, height, as far as height is concerned, I can quite agree with that principle, that as far as height of the ball vis-a-vis the batsman is concerned, above waist or above this, the square leg umpire is in a better view. Either you change it entirely to the square leg umpire, or you keep it with me. And now that it is with me, in the present state, with the provision that the square leg umpire's opinion will prevail. But I look at him, he tells me, I go with him. I go with him, despite, and this is the instruction by ICC. It is still my domain, but I go with what my square leg umpire colleague is saying. I think it will work better that way, rather than I doing it on my own, since the provision is there to look at my colleague and check with him. Or the square leg umpire going up and down with his hands all the time. I think it works better. It will work better that way. We can avoid controversies like this happening, the two that VN quoted. That those controversies are shabby, and it could have repercussions on that particular game when those 2 runs were disallowed. In a very close match, those 2 runs were important to any team. Otherwise, had he called no ball immediately, had no ball been called immediately, those 2 runs plus 1 run would have been given. Here, because of the rules of the game, it was referred to the third umpire, and then in the rules, 2 runs were cancelled. So this kind of thing, it will work that way. I don't know why we have got into the habit. There are some instructions that square leg umpire will all the time be raising his arm, and I look at him, it's instant. I know that the ball is high, and I look at my colleague, he tells me, yes, a small gesture, he tells me this, I go with him. I go with him, even though I may have a different opinion. Okay, I am doing what ICC is telling me. I think teamwork will, this particular regulation and the teamwork that it's supposed to inculcate will be better done if it is followed, that kind of action is followed. I do believe that rather than unbidden, the colleague keeps telling you, it can lead to awkward situations. And we already have 2 recent examples of this awkward situation. I remember when all this stuff about this started, a very senior umpire like Shepherd was at the bowler's end, and he didn't call that ball above the head height, but the square leg umpire went this way. Square leg umpire went this way. I do not remember who the square leg umpire was, but Shepherd stood his ground. I'm not calling. It is his domain. I'm not calling. Of course, we don't want it. ICC now says that, but then he should look at him and follow it. I believe that is quite the right thing to do as far as teamwork is concerned. There were other things that work as far as teamwork is concerned. You should always be. These are all somewhat basic things that we teach to basic umpires, but it's forgotten by a lot of people over the years. Like the 2 umpires here in Swapnil Avekar's photograph, DP, they have stepped out, and they ought to walk up to a particular point on the pitch and then turn away. These are basic things. Everybody perhaps is doing it. I have not been watching too many cricket matches recently. They walk together, then split at a particular time. So this shows you all the time as a team. And part of the teamwork process is also when there is something happening, you should always be with your colleague. Back up and immediately join your colleague when these things happen. That is how teamwork really works. So that you are seen and one colleague को एक particular situation में अकेला नहीं पड़ जाना चाहिए. That is one suggestion that I can give. I remember once, about this thing that though it is not really relevant to this, but I was fourth umpire in a test match in Calcutta, India versus South Africa. Simon Toffel and Daryl Harper were the two umpires, and I was the fourth umpire there. And Harbhajan bowled out a batsman, and did not turn to appeal. He did not turn to appeal. And then, to my surprise, and he did not turn to appeal. He went into celebration mode. I remember I was a little surprised when during the interval the two umpires were thinking of punishing Harbhajan. Punishing Harbhajan. Though we were involved in the discussion, it was very nice of them. Bola, we are all a team. Simon said, we are all a team. We wanted to discuss. End of the day, I think it was. We are all a team. We would like to discuss. We are contemplating further action against Harbhajan for such and such, which is breaking of the law. And he shouldn't have done that. He should have turned around. I said, yes, no doubt. And since you have, may I say something about this? He said, yes, MR, go ahead. And I said, look, as far as bowled is concerned, how many times in any particular year does it happen, in any career year, that the bowler doesn't look at you when for a bowled thing? The intent of the law is not to punish that particular thing, this particular thing. The intent of the law is to punish the guy who, by doing this, is trying to mislead you. That is the intent of the law. And it would be a little too harsh to sort of punish Harbhajan. That was the view I expressed. He said, okay, let's think about it and we'll give a decision on this. Now the decision was between the two of them. But they did us the honor, the third umpire, myself, and the two of field umpire, the match referee was present. We had a discussion, and like a good team ought to do. But the decision came from them, the two of them, the next morning, that look, we have decided that, like MR said, that we, looking to the spirit of this particular law, we are not going ahead with any action against Harbhajan. It was their bigness that they involved us, and they heeded whatever we might have said. Otherwise, those two need not have consulted us on this particular issue. So that is how some of the teamwork works. And I think it is good that we should be following teamwork. It is, you have to be supportive of each other at all times. Never let a disagreement go beyond you.
Thanks,
It should
MR.
never be obvious. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, MR. The sum total is there should be good teamwork. We as a team should be ready to sink or sail unless, which is very remote, that blatant things happen. And we shall not discuss about one-off things which have never happened or which may happen in one in 1,000. With this, I open the house. If anybody has any particular instance to quote or any particular instance to discuss, they can come out with, or you have heard all the three of us, you still have doubt on any one aspect of it or a few aspects of it, one by one, please raise your hand and you can hear your views. House is open now. No questions?
Vinay? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, Suku.
yeah, I was going to ask MR, like what action were they going to take against Harbhajan? I mean,
See, what happens is the laws that was a newly introduced law at that time. That this happened to that Australian player just now, recently, where he did not turn. You're required to turn to the umpire and appeal, and not go into celebratory mode as many players used to do. And the poor umpire would raise the finger after that. I mean, to influence his decision, that everybody goes into, nobody really appeals, they make a big shout. So the ICC at that time, the lawmakers had introduced that rule that every player should turn back to the bowlers and whoever which umpire and make an appeal. which he did not do. And nobody
But
does. Nobody
but
does.
was it necessary? Was it necessary for the bowler to do it, or anybody, any fielder could have appealed?
Yes, but then bowler they saw that he didn't do it at all, and bowler went running straight to the wicket keeper and started the high fives and all that. So that is, if you know that I don't know how to pronounce that Australian player's name who was very recently acted against. He was disciplined for the same thing, that he went into celebrations without appealing for the decision. It was an LBW decision, I think it was.
Yeah, just
Very
to add
recent.
to that one, what MR has said is ICC has a regulation where no player can celebrate before a decision has been given.
Yes.
And we should not drag it too much, as MR said, for clean bowled
I mean,
or
it was
a player who is caught in the covers.
yeah.
We don't expect a big appeal or a verdict also. Many times as an umpire, have we raised our finger when a ball is caught in the covers or a
We simply don't. You're right.
striker is bowled?
Yeah.
It is evident. The intent of the law is, as MR put it aptly, putting pressure on the umpire to get an verdict. Suppose there is an appeal for LBW. The striker can be out only when the umpire at the bowler's end raises his hand. Now, if you carefully read the law, one part is meeting all the conditions for a dismissal, and the second part is the batter is dismissed only when given out. So there are two different things. Just because all the conditions of the dismissal are met, I can't go into celebration mode. I will have to wait till the decision is given, especially in certain things, which we generally, other than clean run out or clean bowled or a clear catch. Yeah. Suko, I think.
So that is why in that situation I was a little surprised, but then they accepted that point and they did not take action further.
It's good that they accepted.
Yeah,
but it's a learning process for all of us.
Yes, yes.
Because when we report somebody under COC, we should not take, or we should take into account these considerations or these facts. Yeah, anyone else has?
Good evening, everybody. This is Balaji.
Who's speaking?
Yeah, Balaji.
This is Balaji. Yeah.
Yes.
Currently in Vizag, but otherwise from.
Suhas wanting to speak. VN, let Balaji finish. After that, Suhas can talk.
Yeah, Suhas, Manu Pasha also has raised.
Okay.
After Balaji, Suhas will speak and then Manu Pasha will.
Yeah, fine.
Okay. Apologies if it is a very stupid question. Forgive me for that. Just an observation, sir. In one of the recent World Cup matches, what I've observed, generally it is within the first 6 overs, 9 players are supposed to be within the 30-yard circle, right? But most of the times, I think the players move in along with the bowlers run up. In one of the matches, I think I've seen the Australian player taking the catch going behind the 30-yard circle, and he wouldn't have made it into the 30-yard circle also by the time the ball was delivered. What is your opinion about it?
Yeah, good question. And to come back to your first part, no question is a stupid question or a silly question. When I have a doubt, it's a doubt for me. It may be a silly question or easy question for somebody else who knows it. But as far as I am concerned, doubt is a doubt.
Only answers can be stupid.
Okay. And number 2, the law is very clear that at the instant of delivery, those many fielders can be outside the boundary line. It's not that 9 have to be inside. Maximum 2 are permitted outside the field restricted area. Because if less complement of players are there, we may get into difficulties if we say so many have to be inside. And number 2, yes, it's for the umpire to decide, because still pitchers can give us wrong signals. A fielder may be more agile, he can travel more ground than what I am or what somebody else is there. So on the field umpires, and there's a third umpire, there's a camera, Hawkeye, everything. So we go by the decisions of what they have said. But as far as coming to basic law, at the instant of delivery, not more than 2 can be outside, or
Outside.
not more than 3 can be outside, or not more than 5 can be outside, depending on the situation of the match and the type of the match. Law does not permit for a player to run back and take a catch, provided he has satisfied the condition that at the instant of delivery, he was within the restricted area or 30-yard circle, which we know. He can be at the border of the 30-yard circle and then go back. And also one more law comes into picture where lateral movement by the fielder is not allowed. Fielder is allowed to move in the direction of the striker or the striker's wicket during the bowler's run up. But by moving so, he cannot alter his position significantly. But there is no way the fielder can move backwards. But for close-in fielders, some more concession has been given that they can move laterally only when the striker is making a stroke otherwise. Means the intention of the striker is taken into consideration, anticipating what stroke the striker is shaping to make or is making, the players can move laterally, not otherwise. Unless the striker starts to make his or shape up to make his stroke, the players cannot move laterally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
Suhas.
Yeah, Suhas?
Good evening, all. I'm Suhas Sapre from Baroda. So regarding the field position, law does not restrict any fielder to take position in front of the batsman striker, that is behind the umpire or behind the wicketkeeper. But it is clear that side screen is there for batsman's concentration. So batsman's concentration should not be disturbed. Here, if a fielder stands in front of the striker, then if his movement will disturb the striker and he will not be ready to take strike. So that way there will be time wasting from the fielding side. So it is always better to tell the captain that he should take position, but he should not make any movement till the ball is played by the batsman. Is it okay? And second thing, when a fielder is behind the wicketkeeper, so when the side offside and onside is decided by the center of the line of the stumps. So when there are already two fielders behind the popping crease on the onside, square leg umpire cannot decide if that fielder is standing behind the wicketkeeper, whether he is on the offside or on the onside. So he cannot decide it is a no ball. So he can also not stand behind the wicketkeeper. If he's standing behind the wicketkeeper, you have to tell the captain that he should take position either on the offside or either on the onside as per the field's placement. So this is okay, sir. This is my opinion.
Thank you, Suhas ji.
Sarika would like to answer.
Okay, no, that's fine with me. I mean, I agree with what Suhas ji has said in terms of field, this thing. If a fielder is placed in front of the wicket, the same thing applies to what a silly fielder or any fielder placed next to the non-striker. The same thing applies to the batsman when he's in line in front of the batsman. He should be in a stationary position until the batsman had the opportunity to play the ball or the ball has passed him. And that's very clear. And if it repeatedly happens, the captain can be told that his team could be taken action under time wasting. It's a good valid point. Similarly, your answer on the fielding restrictions is exactly right. If there is an additional fielder placed just behind the wicket keeper, he would be, for all practical purposes, he would be considered as a fielder to the onside rather than to the offside. Because like you said, the umpires will not know the exact positioning. So it's good if he's positioned a little bit to the off to make it convenient for the captain. in terms of field position. We can just advise him. But he says if he wants to keep in there, we would say that he would be considered as one more fielder on the onside if he's right behind the keeper.
Thank
On
you, sir.
both those
One more
points, we
question.
agree with you.
I wanted to add a bit here.
Okay.
This is here perhaps the topic that we are discussing today of teamwork can come to help. I can tell my colleague that that fellow who's behind the wicket keeper is on the onside or on the offside. Certainly, the guy at square leg cannot see that. These difficulties will be there if there is somebody stationed very fine behind the wicket keeper. Those difficulties, he can always move this way. Now I have the option of punishing it for lateral movement, or maybe he happens before the bowler starts to run and he happens to go here. I can tell my colleague that you got 3 there. I mean, that is where that teamwork can help. But stopping the fielder perhaps would not be quite right.
Yeah,
What do you say,
thanks.
Sarika?
Yeah, thanks.
No, sir, what I meant was if fielder is placed directly behind the wicket keeper.
Yeah, no, directly you treat it as if he's there.
Yeah, but if
He's
he's
both
on the
ways.
offside or something, you could always have a pre-arranged signal, like from the bowler's end, you could just give your thumbs up to the striker that is fine.
That is what I mentioned, that teamwork can work here too in this
Definitely, yes.
situation.
Definitely, yes,
situation.
Samath.
Thanks. Just to add to what has been said, Sapre.
Suhas had a addition, something else to say. Add.
Yeah, 1 minute. I'm adding to this what has been discussed, and then I'll come to him.
Yeah.
The offside and onside has been clearly defined. If somebody is in line with the wicket, that is neither offside or onside. And the law says that there cannot be more than 2 on the onside. If we go to appendix, very clearly they have shown what is onside and what is offside. And in fact, in our academy, one of the trainee umpires came out with a good solution that how do I communicate with my partner if there are more than 2 on the onside behind the popping crease. Sometimes the strikers and umpire may miss it. We know that we have to communicate with non-verbal because stopping the game and talking to them verbally. Vivekanand, your mic is on. Can you mute it, please? Thank you. So what he came out with is we signal like this, L shape.
Okay.
This is to show that this is behind the popping crease. This is the non-verbal signal. He said they are following in their local matches. And I feel that it's a good signal, which all of us can follow it. Thank you. I hope, Suhas, your question is answered in full.
Yeah, thank you, sir. But I have one more question. How would it be fair that after batsman given LBW by the ball of an umpire, after that batsman has left the boundary, both umpires had a discussion, and then square leg umpire says that he got the inside edge, whatever he had double hit. So that ball of an umpire called the batsman back. Is it permissible or how it is fair to call the batsman back?
Yeah, good question, Suhas. In the first incident, you will not take a decision unless you are sure. And LBW is one thing where you cannot decide after consultation. You have to take your decision. Once you have taken your decision, you yourself feel that you have made a mistake, you can change it promptly. There's a time limit. So in this case, you have taken a decision, then you go and talk to your partner, and then it should not arise that you change your decision. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Manu Pasha, you have some questions, please?
Yeah, actually, I had one particular video, and that video can take the discussion back towards celebration before the decision. It was happened in one of the test matches where involving Stuart Broad as the bowler. And I also have the database of ICC COC regarding that particular incident. If it is fine, I can share that particular video. And we can also see, like in this particular discussion, by looking at this video, what is our opinion about that incident?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you can.
I'll make you the host,
Yes.
or you can share the video on the group also later. Yeah, I have made you the host. Manu, you can share your screen.
It's still not. No, it's still disabled.
You are the host now. You can share your screen.
No, for me it is showing it is disabled.
You have made Nerulkar by mistake.
Nerurkar, you can give me
Vinayak
back.
sir,
Yeah, you can make me the host. Vapas, Parat.
yes, Vinayak sir, this is Arun. You can
Yeah.
make co-host. Instead of host, you can make co-host. Co-host
Okay.
can share screen.
Okay.
Or you can
Vishu, you can.
You can just share the link in the message, and someone who is the host, they can play it for us.
No, actually, there is a downloaded video in my laptop.
Oh, okay.
Vishwas,
Can you by mistake I have made it the host. Give it back to me. You go to participants, click on my name and more will come. You go to more and make me host.
Vishu, are you there?
Gaurav, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Vishu, go on participants against my name.
Yeah.
One more will come.
Ah.
You tick on more and then a drop down will come. Make host. You make.
Okay.
मला परत host करतो.
Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No.
Sorry.
Manu Pasha. Yeah, Manu Pasha, you can now.
The screen is visible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah, here actually basically we just see it. This is the moment the celebration started by the bowler, and there is yet to be the decision is yet to be made. And this was one of the incident which, when the incident was seen, it was immediately captured the attention of what the bowler did, and I just wanted an opinion on this particular.
Yeah, it looks like it did appeal. Looks like it did appeal.
Manu, slowly you take it forward. Yeah, you can keep the cursor there and slowly take it forward instead of back. See, he is now celebration mode.
Yes.
He has not appealed. He is celebrating. Slowly you can take it forward.
Yes.
So everybody can see the sequence of events.
Sir, here the question is of not appeal. It's not the question of appealing or not appealing. He started celebrating before the umpire has given his decision. So that is where the COC can be invoked. The appeal can be from anybody, not necessarily the bowler. But what he has to do is, he cannot celebrate, or what he has to do is turn around, look at the umpire, and then once the decision is given, he should start the celebration. So basically, what that is, the celebration, early celebration, is a way of misleading the umpire with an out. So that's why a code of conduct is given for such instances.
Actually, if you see this CO2 database, there was no action reported on this particular incident because almost similar time, the broad was reported for some other issue. But if you see this particular thing, it was not a reported incident.
Yeah, but it looked very clear that he hasn't made an appeal. He started into premature celebration.
Celebrations, yeah.
It looks like that way. Abhi, what we need to also see is that what he did actually, now the focus immediately goes to the umpire. What he did immediately thereafter is perhaps to be seen. Yes, he started pumping the air, which is celebration. But what did he immediately do? Did he look back here? Even then, it is not too late. His first reaction is, yes, I got him. And then whether he turned back to him or not.
You
but
go
then
further
I
up,
would,
Manu.
looking at only this, I would say that he has, yeah,
Go further up. Go further up.
Yeah,
the problem is
unfortunately the video is not there.
Yes. I would want to see the next few seconds,
Yeah, even a cursory glance back to the umpire
yeah.
is also an appealing.
Yeah,
See,
but
generally what
is
happens
required back towards the umpire.
Yeah, generally what happens when a tense match is going on or a long partnership is there, I know that I have got the batsman 100% out. I'm happy. I'm jubilant. And then I turn and appeal. Even a cursory look at the umpire also is, and if you see the gap between the celebration and the umpire lifting his finger, it's too less. So it is for the on-field umpires or the PC to take a call on these things. And as MR has put it earlier, we are not just there to take action and each and everything. We should go by the spirit of the law, intent of the law, and also take into consideration the situation of the match and then come to a conclusion. We should not be trigger happy as umpires. We are just the facilitators there. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we close our eyes for each and everything.
We should not be quick gun Murugan, ready to shoot anybody on sight.
Yeah.
Quick gun Murugan. Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Vian, can I ask? So
yeah,
what
Manu,
those
you can revert back.
What those two guys are doing, they're not appealing? Why is it that the bowler has to appeal?
No.
Yes.
But what it says is the person who is celebrating should wait till the decision is given and then go in appealing mode, in celebratory mode.
This is what that is what special regulations.
Yeah.
So it's an ICC regulation which is required from the bowlers, and the teams are aware of it. And the match referee is watching, and the match referee generally, if the umpires are not reporting it, he would always check with them. Guys, what do you think about this? Did you think Broad has turned towards the umpire? Did he appeal towards the umpire?
Sarika, in my humble opinion, an appeal is an appeal. And why are you going to punish somebody for celebrating? His colleagues appealed. So why must I turn an appeal?
Yeah,
the appeal was made.
Suku here is
it's not
yes,
the question of appeal. It's the question of this early celebration.
Yeah, the point is celebrating before verdict. My partner or my colleague player might have appealed, but in the same instant, if an umpire says no, what happens?
But Vian, what is the offense I committed? What am I guilty of? If the
You
umpire
are
says not out,
you are
if the just
bringing
now,
the game into disrepute by
no,
celebrating.
I
See, that is the ICC's
disagree.
opinion.
Yeah, well,
We
I
might have
disagree.
our own opinion, but we have to agree to abide by the playing conditions which are given to us.
Exactly.
I am saying to you, if that is their regulation, yes, but I disagree with it.
Okay.
There is no offense committed. What am I guilty of? If I celebrate and the umpire says not out, well, it's not out. There's
See,
no
that
offense I committed.
that is your opinion, but
Yes,
the
it's my
ICC.
opinion. That is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I don't
well
agree
taken.
with. I don't agree with it.
Yeah, well taken.
No offense is committed. I'm not guilty of anything. If I
Yeah,
celebrate, if I feel to celebrate,
Okay.
let me celebrate.
Suku, well
that is why they did not take action in this particular case. They did not take action.
No, but
In
why
this,
are we
see
making
what
it a-
happens is,
why are we pressing on an issue
let
that
me
is a
let
non-issue?
me just fill you in with the background why this particular regulation came. There are a lot of players, and you will encounter them in all levels of cricket, where they indulge in premature celebrating a wicket, knowing that it is not out, so as to force the umpire into sort of raising his finger. You have come across it, I'm sure, in your experience. And as I have, as is everybody in this forum, you have come across. So the ICC said this is now being it was seen at the international level. I mean, the umpire would raise his finger. He shouldn't. He should really be raising his finger if he's convinced. But sometimes they would
Of
do it.
course.
They would get misled. Now the ICC
why-
at that time decided, no, Suku, I agree with you, that it can be sometimes too harsh. It can be sometimes too harsh, and the poor fellow slaughtered. But the idea that for introducing this regulation was that ICC wanted to curb this. They thought it is a menace, and therefore they have brought in a rule. एक दो innocent भी उसमें फंस जाता होगा. It is quite possible. Here in this case, perhaps they did the right thing. We can't see the action. They did not punish him. But the background is that the players have been misusing. As I always say, as once I told Ravi Shastri, because he told me one day at the MCA, अरे MR ये कौन सा रूल आया है यार नया? मैं बोला यार रवि, तुम लोग funny चीज करेगा तो funny rule आएगा. You people do funny things, the players do funny things, funny rules are imposed. It was regarding the substitution, batsmen not able to bat and all that. He was talking about that. MR, what is this? That first season it was into. Now we are practicing it. So the people were doing funny things and forcing the umpire to give a decision. The ICC decided, okay, this way we try to check it. He should turn back and make an appeal before going into celebration. That is what the whole background is at.
To me, in my mind, that does not make any sense because the umpire is there to do his job. And if he does his job within the ambits of the law and the spirit of the law, we shouldn't have a problem with it.
Oh, the ICC felt it was an unfair practice.
What ICC want to do, they want to control from an office.
I quite agree.
Make umpires are puppets and make umpires like puppets.
Suku, let us not generalize the things. There are certain things. We are all not on the same page. All the five fingers are different. We might have differences with the rules and regulations. And whenever people fall in the border cases, the decisions could go either way. But as far as we are concerned, these seminars are concerned, we should see the intent of the law and the actual situation. What is the gap between the celebrations and the decision given? If they coincide, if you see this particular video, there's hardly a second difference between the two. And the bowler would be seeing these slip fielders appealing for that. And he is 100% sure that the verdict will be in favor of the fielding side.
And nothing wrong in that, MR. I mean, Vinayak. Nothing wrong in that. I am not guilty of anything.
Okay.
Nothing wrong in that. That is my humble opinion. But we must go with what the ICC regulation says.
Yes.
I have no problem with that. But this is my opinion.
Ian.
Yeah. Well taken. Yeah.
There was a match a long time ago played at Wankhede, the Ranji Trophy finals. Where Mumbai were fielding, and last wicket was, Mumbai needed to claim one wicket to win that match. And suddenly the Mumbai team, after just appealing loud for an LBW, they all started celebrating and they all went to the dressing room in celebration. Only the two umpires and the two batsmen were at the crease. But nothing was, you may remember that match.
Yeah. See, they wanted to force an umpire to give a decision and forcibly take a decision in their favor. All thanks to those two umpires who stood their ground. They did not budge. But only at that point of time, these laws were not there. Because of the experiences of such instances only, the law have come that as umpires have to be within their framework, the players also have to be within their framework. If they exceed, the COC comes into picture.
Yeah, Vishu, you had your hand raised. You wanted to ask something, Vishu?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can he?
Your mic is muted, Vishu.
Ata?
Okay, now, yes.
I just wanted to make emphasis on teamwork, which you all said, that in my opinion, higher the teamwork, higher the success of the match. And I only want to ask one question, that I'm not saying for local matches, but for playing control team, which comes from different country, and two umpires stand for one match from different countries, is there a real teamwork takes place or no? Because this question I have asked to, probably you all know that I have asked to Simon Tuffel many times in all my educator courses, but he did not answer me properly. That's why I was, I did only one match as a fourth umpire, test match. And I have seen absolutely no teamwork on both field umpires.
Point well taken. See, in initial stages that would happen, but nowadays with so many seminars and so many literature being available to everybody and so many umpires mentors being put into force, teamwork does take place and the umpires do meet before the match. In earlier days, you also know that when we used to go to Ranji Trophy matches, maybe the previous day or the morning of the day the match starts. So we had no time for all these things. Now the umpires are expected to go at least 48 hours before, stand in the nets, discuss with the teams, discuss with the colleague, and then come to a understanding that how they are going to behave during the match. Yes, teamwork was a costly affair earlier, but now much better. But still there are a couple of instances where the umpires stand or the ego comes in between and things do happen.
And it should start not only on the field of play, but as soon as they land on the venue of the match. That is what I feel.
See, there'll be different conditions, different things, but at least, see, in our days where we were staying staying at two different places. Now, if you see, 100% of the umpires same at the same venue or same hotel. So there's ample opportunity for them to speak. In our days, we used to stay differently and we didn't have mobile for communication. We could see each other only when we arrive at the ground, maybe 45 minutes earlier, 1 hour earlier, depending on the conditions, local conditions. So things have drastically changed and they have changed for good.
And another thing is that information sharing across the world is also quite improved, and then any difference of opinion on any point of law or application of a law, those things are already sorted out.
Yeah.
There will be very few things that perhaps Or if somebody is coming from Kerala and I am coming from Bombay and somebody else is coming from UP, they used to have a set way of doing things, which sometimes during the course of the match we had to sort out and work. Now, perhaps teamwork now would be definitely better. That
See,
background is there.
for example, we just saw a clipping shown by Manu. Had we not access to the match report, which is made public by the ICC, we should have had different opinions. Each one of would infer something. I would have done differently, you would have done differently. But now that we know that in this case, no action was taken. Probably the gap between the celebration and the decision was too less. And the very fact that it's not that the person who's celebrating should not appeal or should appeal, but clearly he should not start celebrating before the decision is given. So all these things are the learning points for us, which going forward, we will learn and we'll be a better teamwork and better performance. Yeah, Balaji has some question.
Yeah, before that, Vishu, you may recollect the teamwork of Mr. Bansal and Mr. Dicky Bird at 1K day.
Mute as mute.
Unmute.
म्यूट केलंस तू. अरे विशू म्यूट केलंस तू. हा अरे परत म्यूट झालं.
No, I remember, but I don't want to say that. It's okay.
Okay, right.
Okay.
I know.
Balaji.
Yes, sir. And we've been talking about the behavior of the bowler or the other team member before the appeal and immediately after the appeal, etc., etc. In the recent past, I think our current Indian captain Virat Kohli, for that matter, specifically, I'm asking, when compared to the other captains, he's the most, in my personal opinion, misbehaved captain on the field, I would say, because after every appeal, after the third umpire's decision is taken, and the kind of faces he makes, the kind of pumping, the kind of behavior on the field, is there a possibility for the umpires to intervene into this and then control? One, there are two reasons why I'm asking this. One, this game is a gentleman's game. I firmly believe. One, two, the country's reputation is also at stake. He being a captain, because he's an ambassador of India, plus also the game. So can there be control by the umpires of such a behavior?
Okay, good, very good question, Balaji. There are two issues here. One is a good ambassador and how do I conduct myself on the field and what advertisement I do for my country or myself is one thing, where the umpires will not be able to help you, or umpire will not be able to control you. It is for you and your team management to think about that. Number two, yes, surely he is a more aggressive captain player and umpires are liberty to control him. Yes, at certain times he is getting away with his tantrums because of so many various considerations and things. Surely there were one of two occasions. If you have seen the recent IPL match, one LBW was referred. In that case, the way the players behaved and things, though ultimately the decision was correct, but there were instances which could be reported on. But since it being an IPL and IPL match, but had it happened in a ICC tournament, surely it would have been reported. So thank you all. It's already 9:40.
Yeah, before we end,
late, especially for Sarika.
One line on Virat. Line on Virat.
Yeah, one minute. Especially for Sarika, it is too late for him. Thanks for still being with us. Yeah, Marcus.
What you're saying, Virat at present is only 10%. What we saw in domestic cricket was much more.
Oh my God.
In fact, Marcus, I'll tell you the other side of the coin also.
Yeah.
There was a match in Delhi. He was playing in that match, and unfortunate and sad thing that his father passed away. He went back home and he was there back on the field the next day. He is so passionate about with the
Yeah,
game.
yeah. We are talking about his aggressiveness.
No,
Yeah,
he's Marcus. I felt that he's a bit of a Delhi brat. There's no doubt about it. Bit of a Delhi brat, but ऐसा बुरा तो नहीं था कभी ऐसा.
नहीं.
Yes, grimacing on the ground and all that, like Vian said, all that should be checked. Somebody ought to check him.
There is a thin line
Yeah,
between being aggressive and being adamant or rude.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention was I have told Ajit Datar also in our chat that there should be off the field teamwork also is very important. Well, Vishwas, what drink will you have? And then if he's going to eat vegetarian only, then you should also cooperate and have vegetarian with your friend. That kind of thing. You can sort of, your teamwork can extend beyond the ground, I think. What, Ajit?
Yeah, of course, there won't be any controversy off the field. Such things.
Vian,
Yeah, Suko.
can you inform the guys about our session tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right.
Gentlemen,
Just wanted to remind.
There's a group called Global Umpires WhatsApp group, and every alternate Saturday for those umpires residing in India, and Friday evening those who are in the EST, we meet and we discuss such issues there also. And our next meet was on coming Saturday morning, IST 6 o'clock, and EST it is Friday evening accordingly. Yeah, Balaji, one last question. Your hand is raised.
Question. This is for Sarika Prasad. Because I'm also from Vizag. I've heard a lot about and I've seen him also a little bit while he used to play for a team called Metro. Sarika, is that correct?
Yeah, I played actually for Luxury Cricket Club and Vizag Colts. Metro was one of the teams I used to play against.
Oh, okay, Sarika. I'm out of Bulay College, and while Banga Raju was the captain of the Andhra University, we called him Bangi. I don't know whether you know him or not.
Yeah, I know him.
Nice to see you after a long time.
Thank you, Balaji. I've sent you a message also in WhatsApp after that message in the group. I sent you a separate message. We'll keep in touch through that individual WhatsApp chat. Okay, nice talking to you.
Tappakunda. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Over to you, Vian, sir.
Yeah, Marcus, we can close. And if anything is there, we always can discuss in our next session.
Yes, thank you, Vian, thank you, Sarika, thank you, MR, and thank you all. We meet again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.